Okay, so picture the scene. It's, I don't know, 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're lying in bed, the blue light of your phone is just blasting your face, and you're doom scrolling.
We've all been there.
Right. You're tired, you're stressed, maybe you've had a really rough week at work, and then suddenly the algorithm serves you the image.
Oh, I know exactly which one you mean. It's totally unavoidable if you've searched for travel even once in the last, 5 years?
The glass igloo. It's just glowing like this warm amber ember in the middle of a massive snowy expanse. Inside, there's someone wearing a suspiciously attractive thermal knit suit, which I'm pretty sure costs more than my car. And they're sipping some kind of steaming hot berry juice. They look so perfectly cozy.
And right above them, through that heated glass ceiling.
The sky is absolutely exploding. I mean, green, purple, pink, these dancing lights. It just looks like pure magic. It looks like the ultimate escape from the daily grind.
It's the whole Arctic Aurora wellness aesthetic. It is, you could argue, the most successful travel marketing campaign of the last decade. It sells a very, very specific promise.
Which is what?
That if you just go there to the top of the world, everything will be quiet and beautiful and profound.
Exactly. You see that image and you just think, I need that. I need that peace. I need that silence. I need to feel small under the universe for a little while.
Right.
But today, we're going to do something that might hurt a little bit. We're going to pull back the curtain on that Instagram dream.
Just tear it right down.
We've got a stack of source material here, travel logs, some financial breakdowns, meteorological data, and a very, very candid trip report that basically takes a sledgehammer to that perfect glass igloo.
It really does. I mean, we're looking at this deep, candid breakdown of a trip to Finnish Lapland. And the source material frames this entire deep dive around a central tension that I think every traveler feels, but, rarely says out loud. It pits two perspectives against each other. There's the dream, which is all the soul-seeking, the spiritual experience you were talking about, versus the reality, which is, well, it's largely logistical, it's physically painful, and it's incredibly expensive.
And when we say expensive, let's just, rip the Band-Aid off right now.
Let's do it.
The source describes this as potentially the most expensive nature trip of your entire life. They talk about burning through a month's rent in 3 days.
To freeze your eyelashes off.
Literally, to freeze your eyelashes off until they snap. So here is our mission for this deep dive. We need to figure out, is this whole experience a scam?
Right.
Is it just marketing fluff designed to drain your bank account while you shiver in the dark? Or is it actually a spiritual necessity that you really can't put a price tag on? Because the source material argues both sides, and the answer is, well, it's surprisingly complex.
It's a real battle between the wallet and the soul. And what's so fascinating here is that the things you think you want, the glass igloo, the constant northern light show, those might actually be the traps.
The traps?
Yeah, they might be the very things that ruin the trip. And the things you're afraid of, like the 24-hour darkness, the polar night, or the sheer pain of the cold, that might actually be the real wellness experience.
I love that idea, the contrarian surprises. So we're going to unpack why the polar night isn't actually black, why paying for a Northern Lights tour is often a total waste of money.
A huge waste.
And why true wellness might involve getting beaten with birch branches rather than, a hot stone massage.
Yes.
But first, we have to lay the groundwork. We need to talk about the context because the source makes it really clear Lapland is not what you think it is.
No, not at all. Context is everything here. When people say, I want to go to Lapland, they usually have this very vague concept of what that even means. They think of it as a resort, like Disneyland or a specific ski village.
But it's not a resort at all, is it? Yeah. It's a massive region.
Exactly. Lapland is the entire northern third of Finland. It is huge, and that creates a massive logistical footprint. The source material really emphasizes that where you book determines whether you get a spiritual retreat or a tourist trap.
Okay.
And the source breaks it down into 3 distinct zones, and understanding these zones is literally the difference between a good trip and a truly miserable one.
Let's walk through those, because this seems like the first place people go wrong.
Yeah.
The source starts with a place called Rovaniemi.
Rovaniemi. It's the capital of Lapland. It sits right on the Arctic Circle. And this is the Disneyfication danger zone.
The danger zone.
It's where Santa Claus Village is. Now, look, if you have small children and you want to meet the official Santa and take a photo with an elf and buy some overpriced souvenirs, you go here. It's built for that.
Right.
But if you are looking for silence, for wilderness, for that spiritual connection, the source basically says, Avoid it at all costs.
Because it's just too crowded.
Yeah.
Is that the main issue?
It's a city, it has traffic, it has light pollution, and light pollution is the absolute enemy of the aurora. If you're staying in Rovaniemi, you are likely staying in a hotel block that looks like it could be in any city in Europe, just, with more snow.
So tour buses everywhere.
Tour buses everywhere. It's just not the alone in the woods vibe that those Instagram photos promised you. Not even close.
Okay, so Rovaniemi is the trap if you're looking for nature. So where does the source suggest we go instead?
Zone 2, the ski resort areas, specifically places like Levi and Igloos. This is where most of our source material is based, and it's kind of the Goldilocks zone.
Goldilocks.
Yeah, you have infrastructure restaurants, grocery stores, plowed roads, maybe even a pharmacy if you get sick. But you are 5 minutes away from deep, dark national park wilderness. You can have your amenities, but you can also just disappear into the trees.
That sounds much more manageable. And then there's Zone 3, which I have to admit sounded a bit intense to me. The deep north.
Inari and Utsjoki. This is for the hardcore. It is remote, it is culturally rich with Sami heritage, the indigenous people of the region, but it is empty.
What do you mean by empty?
I mean, if you get a flat tire there, you are in a completely different kind of trouble than if you're in Levi. It's beautiful, but it requires a level of self-sufficiency that the average wellness tourist might not be prepared for.
Right. So let's assume we aim for that middle ground, that Igloos area. We still have to talk about the accommodation, because this is where that Instagram versus reality gap is just a canyon.
Oh, yeah.
The glass igloo. It's the icon of the entire trip.
It is the icon, and the source material is absolutely brutal about this. These igloos can cost upwards of, $800 to $1,000 a night?
A night. For that price, I expect the Aurora to personally tuck me in, read me a bedtime story, and then make me breakfast in the morning.
You would hope so. But let's look at the architecture and the logistics of these places. The marketing photos are always taken from very specific low angles, usually with a wide-angle lens, making it look like the igloo is all alone in the forest, surrounded by untouched snow.
Yeah, the reality.
The reality. The source describes it as a goldfish bowl in a parking lot.
Ouch. That is such a depressing image, a goldfish bowl in a parking lot.
It's often true. I mean, to make the plumbing and the electricity and the heating work for 30 glass domes, they have to be arranged in tight rows or circles. You aren't looking at the endless wilderness. You're looking at your neighbor's thermal underwear.
Oh, no.
We're looking at the back of the reception building. And because it's glass, if you turn on a light inside, the whole world sees you. It's like being on a stage, but you can't see out because of the reflection on the glass.
That's a physics problem I hadn't even thought of. The inside of the glass becomes a mirror. So you're sitting there paying $1,000 a night, totally exposed to strangers, staring at your own reflection, while the aurora might be happening outside, but you can't really see it clearly because of the glare from your own lamp.
While the massive heating bill for that all-glass structure is what's driving the price up in the first place, the source's advice is purely financial here. Skip the igloo. It's a gimmick.
So what's the alternative?
Rent a traditional log cabin. You get privacy, you get a fireplace, you usually get a private sauna, which is absolutely key. And if the lights come out, you walk out the front door.
And you save, $600 a night?
For a better, more authentic experience, it's a no-brainer.
That seems like the first major, takeaway here. The aesthetic you see on social media is often inversely proportional to the quality of the actual experience.
Well said.
The more Instagrammable the accommodation looks, the less comfortable and private it probably is. Okay, so let's say we've done it. We've booked the cabin, we've avoided the trap, we land at the airport in Kitale, we step off the plane. What's the first thing that happens?
Violence.
Violence. That's a pretty strong word for weather.
The source describes the environment as actively hostile to human life. We need to talk about the cold, but not in a, you should pack a sweater kind of way.
Right.
We're talking about negative 28 degrees Celsius. That's nearly negative 20 Fahrenheit. And for many people listening, that is a temperature that is completely abstract. You have no frame of reference for it.
I certainly don't. I've never experienced anything close to that. What does that actually feel like?
The source uses some really visceral language here. They talk about walking out onto the tarmac and feeling the moisture inside your nose freeze instantly.
Oh.
It's like little needles or crystals forming in your nostrils. The air is so cold, it feels solid, it has a bite to it.
And it's not just uncomfortable. It causes legitimate logistical failures, right?
Mm-hmm.
The source mentioned something they call the lithium death spiral. I found this fascinating because we are so completely dependent on our phones now.
This is such a crucial technical point for anyone traveling there. Lithium-ion batteries rely on chemical reactions to generate power. Inside the battery, ions move from the anode to the cathode.
Okay.
Extreme cold increases the internal resistance of the battery. The ions literally slow down. They start moving through the electrolyte like it's molasses.
So your phone isn't actually out of power, it just can't access it.
Exactly. The charge is there, but the battery can't deliver it to the phone fast enough to keep the processor running. So the phone thinks the battery is dead and it just shuts down to protect itself.
Wow.
The source mentions a phone battery going from 80% to dead in 90 seconds of exposure.
That's actually panic-inducing. You're standing there trying to take a picture of this beautiful landscape. Maybe you're trying to navigate back to your cabin, and your technology just completely abandons you.
Precisely. The takeaway. You have to keep your electronics against your body. Body heat is the only thing that will keep them alive. Put the phone in an inner pocket, under your coat, right against your chest.
And it's not just phones, right?
No, not at all. The source mentions car doors freezing shut because the rubber seals become brittle, and any tiny bit of moisture just bonds them to the metal. You might have to physically shoulder check the door to break the ice seal.
It sounds like a full-on survival situation just to go to the grocery store.
It kind of is. The source notes that just existing in -28 degrees is physical labor. Your body is burning massive amounts of calories just to maintain its core temperature. You get tired so much faster.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Simple tasks like tying a bootlace become these complex puzzles because you can't take your gloves off without risking frost nip in minutes.
Cotton kills. That's the phrase the source uses, right?
Yes. This is Wilderness 101, but it really bears repeating. If you wear cotton jeans, t-shirts, whatever, and you sweat even a little bit from walking in deep snow, the cotton gets wet. And cotton loses all its insulation value when wet.
No. Right.
It basically becomes a refrigerator coil against your skin. You need wool, merino wool, layers and layers of it. You have to dress like an onion. Air trapped between the layers is what keeps you warm, not the thickness of one single coat.
But here's the pivot, and I think this is where the deep dive gets really interesting. We've described this brutal, freezing, battery-killing environment. I mean, it sounds miserable.
It does.
And yet the source immediately pivots to the sensory magic of it.
This is where the soul perspective kicks in, and where H, the sort of dreamer persona in the source material, takes over. The source starts describing the air. They use the phrase drinking oxygen.
That stuck with me, drinking oxygen. It implies sustenance, like it's nourishing you.
Well, think about the air in a city. It's full of exhaust, dust, particulate matter, constant noise. The air in Lapland at -20 degrees is sterile. It's incredibly dense because cold air compresses.
So when you breathe it in,
It feels heavy and clean. It smells of wood smoke and ice. It's a total sensory detox.
that's silence. The source spends a lot of time describing the acoustic environment.
The acoustics of snow are fascinating. Fresh, deep snow is a natural sound dampener. It's highly porous, so it absorbs sound waves rather than reflecting them.
Unlike a city.
Exactly. In a city, sound bounces off concrete, glass, asphalt. In the Arctic forest, the sound is just swallowed. The source says the silence has weight that it presses on you.
That sounds both terrifying and incredibly therapeutic at the same time. In our modern lives, we never experience true silence. There's always a fridge, a car, a server farm somewhere, the HVAC system. To have all of that stripped away, I can see why that alone is worth the money.
It forces you to be present. You can't be distracted. You can't hear anything but your own breath and the crunch of snow under your feet. It's a form of meditation that is basically forced upon you by the landscape.
Now, speaking of things forced upon you by the landscape,
Yeah.
we have to address the elephant in the room. Or maybe the elephant in the sky? The darkness.
The polar night. The Finns call it Kamos.
I think this is the #1 fear people have about this trip. They look at the latitude, they see sunsets at 12:30 p.m. or sun does not rise at all, and they just panic. They imagine living in a cave.
They think it's like midnight all the time.
Right.
And it's just a huge misconception. The source is very, very firm on this. It is not pitch black 24/7. It's not like someone just turned off the sun switch.
So what is it then? If the sun doesn't rise, how is there light?
It's what's known as the blue hour. Because the sun is hovering just below the horizon, its light is refracting through the atmosphere. It's scattering. So for about 4 to 5 hours a day, usually from around 10 a.m. to 2:40 p.m., the whole world is bathed in this deep indigo twilight blue.
The source describes it as bruised light. That's very poetic.
It's incredibly beautiful, and because the ground is covered in white snow, it reflects all that ambient blue light, so everything just glows. It's not the absence of light, it's a totally different kind of light. It feels magical, almost like being underwater.
And psychologically. The source argues this is actually a highlight of the trip, not a drawback.
It is.
How so? I would think it would make you depressed.
Yeah.
SAD, seasonal affective disorder. We're always told we need vitamin D and bright light to be happy.
For a resident living there for 6 months, absolutely, SAD is a real risk. But for a visitor who's just there for a week, it's a biological reset.
A reset.
The darkness triggers melatonin production earlier in the day. It tells your primitive brain to slow down, to rest, to be quiet. We live under these harsh fluorescent lights and screens all day, keeping our cortisol levels high. This kamos is like a permission slip from nature to just do nothing.
That's a really lovely way to frame it. The darkness isn't a void, it's a blanket. It just wraps you up.
Exactly. It lowers your pulse. It matches the silence we were talking about. But of course, the darkness is also the canvas.
Right.
And this brings us to the main event. The reason people drop thousands and thousands of dollars. The aurora borealis.
The northern lights. And this is where the source gets really, really pragmatic. They call booking a trip solely for the northern lights a trap.
This is the great gamble, and it's where expectations often crash into reality with a very, very expensive thud.
Let's look at the stats from the source. They spent 4 nights there. How many times did they actually see the lights?
0. Well, I mean, technically not 0, but what they saw was gray clouds. And they spent hours staring at them.
And that's the one thing people always forget. The sun could be throwing out a massive coronal mass ejection. The solar wind could be screaming towards Earth. The magnetic field might be vibrating like a guitar string. But if there is a cloud layer at 5,000 feet...
You see nothing.
Nothing.
The physics of the atmosphere do not care about your vacation budget. The source estimates there's a 50% chance of disappointment if the lights are your only goal. And that is a coin toss with a $5,000 buy-in. That's just bad gambling.
There's also a technical reality check in here about what the lights actually look like, even if the sky is clear. We've all seen the time-lapse videos. Neon green, screaming pink, moving fast across the sky like a laser show.
That is almost never what the naked eye sees. And this is a biology issue, not just a photography issue.
What do you mean?
Our eyes have rods and cones. Cones see color, but they are expensive for our brain to run. They need bright light to activate. Rods see in the dark, they're very sensitive, but they're mostly black and white.
So when the aurora is faint?
Your eyes use the rods. You see a gray or a faint white smudge. It looks like a cloud, maybe a slightly weirdly shaped cloud.
Yeah.
But if you point a camera at it and do a 5-second exposure, the sensor collects enough photons over time to register the green wavelength.
That leads to this bizarre phenomenon the source describes, where people are standing under a gray sky looking at their phone screens to see the green sky that is physically above them, but totally invisible to their own eyes.
It's the augmented reality of travel. You're watching the trip through a screen because the screen sees better than you do. However, and this is a massive, massive however, the source says that when the solar activity is high enough...
When a KP index jumps up.
Exactly. When the energy is strong enough to trigger your eye's cones, the source describes it as changing your brain chemistry.
Terrifying and beautiful, I think was the quote.
Yes, because it moves. It's not static. It ripples directly overhead. It feels enormous. It triggers that sense of the sublime, that feeling of being very small in the face of something very, very large. It's a spiritual experience. The source says it felt like another planet.
So it is real. It is worth it. But you can't force it. You can't just buy a ticket for it.
And you shouldn't pay for it. This is the big financial tip of the episode. The source explicitly says, do not pay for a Northern Lights chase tour.
Really? Why? That's the first thing TripAdvisor tells you to do. Book the chase.
Think about the logistics of it. A guide in a van cannot control the clouds. They can't control the sun. If it's cloudy everywhere in the region, they are just driving you around in the dark for 4 hours burning diesel to tell you it's cloudy.
And if it's clear.
Well, if it's clear and you followed our earlier advice to book a cabin away from the city lights, you just open your door, you look up, it's free. The sky is free. You don't need a guide to point up and say, look, lights.
So the tour is basically just an expensive taxi ride to a random parking lot in the dark.
Pretty much. Unless you are stuck in downtown Rovaniemi and you physically cannot escape the light pollution without a car, the tour is a scam. Save that money. Use it to buy better wool socks.
Okay, so we've covered the where, skip Rovaniemi, go to Igloos.
Hey.
The what, skip the igloo, get a cabin.
Yeah.
And the why, The silence and the battery-killing cold. Now let's talk about the wind, because the source has some very strong feelings about the calendar.
They really do.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes right back to the Disneyfication issue we started with. The source warns very strongly against going in December.
But December is Christmas. That's the peak season. That's when you want to be in the snow with a reindeer.
That's the problem, though. Everyone wants to be there. The source calls it Christmas chaos. Prices are double, sometimes even triple. The airports are a complete zoo. There are families everywhere.
So the silence we talked about.
It's gone. You're queuing for reindeer rides. You're fighting for a table at the restaurant. It becomes a theme park. It totally loses that deep north feeling.
Okay, so what's the recommendation?
If you want the wellness trip, the blue hour, the drinking oxygen, the peace you go in deep winter, that's January, February.
The crowds are gone, the prices drop.
And the snow is thicker. And the light is actually better. The Kamos twilight is at its most beautiful in January. The sun is just starting to return, so you get these incredibly long sunrises that last for 4 hours and then just turn into sunsets without ever really becoming day. It's spectacular.
Wow. Now, we did promise to talk about the birch branches.
We did.
This is the final piece of the wellness puzzle. The source contrasts the luxury marketing wellness with authentic Finnish wellness.
Right. The marketing sells you hot stone massages, gold flake facials, and those fancy thermal suits. It tries to make the Arctic soft. But the source argues that real Finnish wellness is much rougher. It's about resilience. It's about contrast.
And it centers on the sauna, obviously.
The sauna is practically a church in Finland. There are more saunas than there are cars. But it's not just about sitting in a hot room. It involves the vita, or vasta.
The bundle of birch branches.
You take these branches, you soak them in warm water, and you beat yourself or your friend with them.
To the uninitiated, that sounds like penance. It sounds like some kind of medieval torture. Here, let me hit you with this stick.
But it stimulates circulation. The oils from the birch leaves are released by the heat and the impact. It smells incredible, like a forest in the middle of summer, even though it's deep winter outside. But it fits the whole theme of the trip, doesn't it? It's physically intense.
How so?
The whole experience is about that contrast. You sit in a 100-degree-Celsius sauna until you absolutely can't take it anymore, until you are sweating and your heart is pounding, and then you run outside.
Into the Naga 28-degree snow. Or into the Avanto.
The hole in the ice. You dip into freezing water. The shock to your system is massive. It releases this flood of norepinephrine and dopamine. It's a primal survival reaction. You feel incredibly alive because your body is reacting to a survival threat.
This is the core paradox the source keeps coming back to, isn't it? We're so obsessed with comfort. We buy soft things, warm things, easy things. But this source suggests that the most profound wellness actually comes from the environment trying to kill you a little bit.
It's what people call type 2 fun. It's miserable in the moment, or at least really difficult, but the clarity you get afterwards is completely unmatched. You don't get that clarity from a hot stone massage.
No.
You get it from surviving the ice hole. It's what scientists call hormetic stress, short bursts of stress that actually strengthen this system.
That's a really deep distinction. It's not pampering wellness, it's existential wellness.
Right.
It's reminding your body what it's capable of.
That's a great way to put it. It grounds you in your own physicality.
So we've unpacked a lot here. We've looked at the geography, the physics of the cold, the biology of the eye, and the economics of all the tourist traps. If we have to synthesize this into a final verdict based on our source material, where do we land? Is it a scam or not?
The source actually splits the verdict between those two personas we mentioned at the start, Phil and H.
Right. Phil is the pragmatist, the wallet, the
Right.
guy looking at the credit card bill at the end of the month.
To Phil, this trip is a financial hemorrhage if you do it wrong. If you book the $800 glue and you spend 3 nights staring at a cloudy sky and eating expensive reindeer stew, you are going to feel ripped off. You will leave feeling poorer and colder.
But for H, the soul.
For H, it's another planet. The silence has real value. The blue hour changes your perception of time. And it's a big if you do see the lights, it changes your perception of the universe. And that's priceless.
So the ultimate takeaway is go, but go smart.
Exactly. Manage your expectations. Treat the northern lights as a bonus, a beautiful cherry on top. Do not make them the main course.
Build the trip around the things you can control.
Yes. The cabin, the fire, the sauna, the snowshoeing, the silence. If you go for the environment for the winter itself, you'll be satisfied. If you go for the Instagram photo, you might leave broke and disappointed.
Focus on the inputs, not the output.
And bring spare batteries.
And wool socks.
Many, many wool socks. And maybe a few hand warmers for your phone.
Before we sign off, I just want to leave the listener with one last thought.
Yeah.
We spend so much of our lives trying to mitigate discomfort. We have heated seats in our cars, climate control in our homes, noise-canceling headphones. But maybe, just maybe, the reset button our brains so desperately need is actually located in the discomfort.
In the freezing cold.
In the dark. In the silence that presses on your ears. Maybe we need to be reminded of our own fragility to really appreciate what it feels like to be warm and safe. Maybe the real scam isn't the cold trip. Maybe the scam is the idea that we should always be comfortable.
That's a chilling thought. In a good way.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Stay warm out there.
And don't eat the yellow snow.
We'll see you next time.